I ironed my blouse twice, checked my lipstick 3 times, and told myself not to cry, no matter what. It was just dinner with my family, the people I'd loved and raised for over 4 decades. We were gathering at my son Blake's glassy house, the one he and Candace bought after Henry and I co-signed the loan, a detail no one mentioned anymore. They said it was to discuss estate things, meaning the house, the lake property, and the retirement accounts Henry and I built, eating canned soup and skipping vacations for 20 years. I brought a blueberry pie, Henry's favorite, hoping it might soften the mood. When I walked into Blake's home, no one looked up. Blake poured wine like a Napa Valley host, while Candace, in gold heels and a glassy smile, clicked around the kitchen as if she owned it. Their son Jack gave me a nod, the kind you offer a stranger at a funeral. The air was sharp with her perfume, and something burning in the oven. We sat at the table I'd gifted them last Christmas, 9 of us, tension simmering. Blake opened with, "We've been thinking it's best to simplify things." I knew what that meant. Less of me, more of them. I asked carefully, "Have you spoken to the lawyer about the trust?" Candace, eyes on her phone, muttered, "You're just the widow, Ellanor. Maybe stay quiet for now." The room fell silent. Blake chuckled, then Trevor, my other son, joined in, as if it were a sitcom punchline. My hands shook beneath the table, not from weakness, but from the weight of being buried alive in their dismissal. I looked at each face, glazed eyes treating me like a placeholder. I set my fork down, stood, and left without a word, abandoning the pie on the counter. I didn't give them tears or a speech. I walked to my car, locked the door, and let the silence feel like peace, not loneliness. They didn't call after me. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in Henry's brown recliner, wrapped in our frayed throw blanket with its coffee stain, replaying their words, "You're just the widow. Stay quiet," like I was an extra in their lives. At 2:30 a.m., I crossed the hall barefoot to the no-go drawer, where we kept passports, titles, and wills. I wasn't sure what I sought, maybe proof I still mattered. Pushing aside familiar papers, I found a thick white envelope labeled Ellanor in Henry's handwriting. My hands trembled as I opened it. Henry wasn't sentimental. His love was in rotated tires and clean gutters, not letters. Inside was a notebook page and clipped documents. The letter read, "If you're reading this, something's gone wrong. I wanted to tell you sooner, but you try to fix it instead of protect yourself. The boys are selfish, Candace worse. I saw when I got sick. Everything's in your name. House, accounts, lake property. You have full authority, power of attorney. They don't know. Don't let them shame you into silence. If they try to take what's yours, burn it all down." I froze, the weight sinking in. Henry had rewritten everything 8 months before he passed, during doctor visits and chemo without telling me. The documents, notarized, sealed by our lawyer, Alan, confirmed it. Financial control, ownership restructuring, assets transferred to me upon his death. Blake's questions about business records, Candace's smiling next steps queries, must have spurred him. I made tea to steady my hands, pacing the kitchen, rereading the signature dates. It was real. At 3:47 a.m., I called Alan, our lawyer of 30 years, who answered groggily, but snapped alert at my name. "Henry left everything to me," I said. "I found the paperwork. I want to activate it today." He asked if anyone knew. "No," I replied. "Good," he said. "Don't tell them. I'll be there by 9. I hung up, staring at our wedding photo on the wall. Us, young and scared, on the courthouse steps. I touched the frame. "I've got it now, Henry. Don't worry." I folded the documents into a manila folder, placed it in my purse like a weapon, and prepared to show my family what kind of woman they'd pushed out. When Alan Kramer rang my doorbell at 8:57 a.m., I was dressed, makeup done, hair pinned back as Henry liked it. The documents from Henry's envelope lay across the dining table like a battle map, my notebook scrawled with questions. Alan stepped in with his worn leather folder, his expression shifting to grim respect at the sight of Henry's letter. We spent 2 hours dissecting every clause: financial control, asset transfers, power of attorney, all in my name, notarized and binding. By 11:15, I signed 6 forms, transferring every property, account, and business interest to my sole authority. Alan called the estate manager, confirming all instructions now came from me alone. All further authorization rests with Mrs. Ellanor Whitmore, he said. I held my breath, the reality sinking in. Alan asked, do you want them to find out through their accounts or call a meeting? I paused, then said, let them feel it. Let it hit like a crash. He smiled. That's the Ellanor I remember. By afternoon, I'd spoken with Henry's brokerage manager, property firm, title company, and accountant, each confirming my name as the only one that mattered. At 3 p.m., Blake texted, hey, weird question, but do you know why the cabin account's locked? I didn't reply. 5 minutes later, Candace's voicemail came, her tone sharp yet sugary, as if she could charm her way out. I ignored it. By 4:30, the family group chat buzzed with confusion. Account issues, access denied. Trevor wrote, did someone change things on Mom's end? The panic had begun. At 5:05, as they gathered at Blake's for another strategy dinner, I walked up their stone path, a manila folder in hand, and knocked like I was delivering a casserole. Blake opened the door, confused, his fake smile faltering. I stepped in, set the folder on the counter, and said, you might want to sit down. They didn't. Candace leaned against the counter, arms crossed, while Trevor lingered in the hallway, ready to bolt. I opened the folder, laying out the documents. This is the new estate plan, I said. Everything is under my name. Everything. Silence followed, not shock, but arrogance, as if they could outsmart me. Blake snorted. You can't move money without the trust board. I met his gaze. There is no trust board. Henry dissolved it last year. You didn't read the fine print. Candace, scanning the papers with her manicured nails, scoffed. No way this is binding. I handed her the notarized copy with Alan's signature and date stamp. She froze. I stepped back. This isn't a negotiation. It's a notification. As of this morning, you have no legal claim to any of it. No one moved or spoke. For the first time in years, the room was quiet while I stood in it. I turned to leave, pausing at the door. Next time you discuss my future, you'll need an appointment. I didn't slam the door or cry. I walked away, leaving them in the house Henry and I had paid for, choking on their lost control. The next morning, I sipped coffee in my kitchen, the old drip machine sputtering. 5 missed calls from Blake, 3 from Candace, 1 from Trevor, who'd waited for the storm to hit before acting. I ignored them, watching steam rise from my mug, hoping they hadn't slept. At 9:12 a.m., Alan called. Blake had tried accessing 2 accounts from his laptop. Both attempts were flagged. Good, I said. Let him dig. An hour later, Candace appeared at my door, oversized sunglasses hiding her fury. I didn't invite her in. Ellanor, we're all confused, she started, her smile tight. Why would Henry do this behind our backs? I looked her in the eye. Maybe because he knew what you'd do in front. She flinched. You should leave, I added. This is trespassing. She muttered about lawyers, but I closed the door before she finished. Trevor called later, voice low. Mom, I didn't know about this. I thought the trust was automatic. I heard his guilt, or perhaps fear of being cut off. You had every chance to ask me, I said. Your silence is your signature. He hung up without a reply. That night, I cooked dinner for 1, roasted chicken, garlic mashed potatoes, lemony green beans, done with eating scraps while others feasted on my sacrifices. As I poured wine, the landline rang. It was Ava, Blake and Candace's 17-year-old daughter, her voice shaky. Grandma, Mom and Dad are freaking out. They said money's gone, the house is in trouble. Are you okay? Her concern hit harder than their betrayal. I'm fine, sweetheart, I said. You didn't do anything wrong. She whispered, I miss Grandpa. He'd hate this. I swallowed hard. That's why he fixed it before it broke. After we hung up, I sat in silence, not with grief or rage, but clarity. Henry had seen this coming. Blake, Candace, and Trevor were flailing, but Ava's heart kept me grounded. They'd underestimated me, but I was no longer invisible. I was the firewall now. 2 days after I shut the door on Candace, Alan called, his tone sharp enough to make me sit before he spoke. "There's something you need to see," he said. An hour later, I was in his office, sipping burnt coffee from a chipped mug as he slid a folder across the desk. I opened it, puzzled by bank statements, account transfers, and loan agreements, all bearing Blake's name. He used Henry's business line of credit as collateral, Alan explained. $500,000, maybe more. He signed as a partner, but that partnership dissolved when Henry passed, making these fraudulent. My hands went cold. I flipped through the papers, dates aligning with memories. Blake's new SUV last year, their kitchen remodel, the sponsored Aspen ski trip. It was all tied to money he had no right to touch. He did this while Henry was sick. I asked, my voice quieter than intended. Alan nodded. The first transaction hit 2 weeks after Henry's first surgery. The numbers became betrayal, rotting from within. I pictured Blake smiling at hospital visits, asking about business records while Henry weakened. Alan leaned forward. "We can press charges or let the financial news tighten. Your call." I didn't answer, needing time to process. Driving home, silence replaced the radio. In Henry's study, I pulled out his leather journal, tucked behind encyclopedias, where he scribbled tax notes. On a late page, in his neat handwriting, Blake's withdrawals looked fishy. Ask Alan. Henry had suspected, but cancer stole his chance to act. Now it was my duty. That night, I spread the documents on the kitchen table, puzzle pieces of my son's greed. I wanted to scream, but instead I made a folder labeled firewood and listed assets to sell, debts to call in, investments to freeze. I called Alan the next morning. "Don't press charges yet. Let him stew. I want him broke before he's scared." I then phoned Peter, the estate accountant, who'd attended Henry's retirement party years ago. "Did you know about this?" I asked point blank. He admitted, "I had concerns, but your name wasn't on anything until now." My hands were tied. I replied, "They're not now." Talk. For over an hour, he detailed suspicious fund movements, red flags he couldn't probe without authority, and Blake's belief that he'd inherit everything to cover his debts after Henry's death. It wasn't just greed, it was arrogance, assuming I'd stay silent. That night, I sent Blake one text: get a lawyer, an accountant, and a cheap apartment. No reply came, but his quiet was louder than any excuse, his world slipping through my fingers. 3 days later, Blake invited me to a family barbecue, framed as a casual reset, as if we could grill away his fraud. Every instinct urged me to stay home, but silence wasn't enough. I needed them to face me. I wore Henry's pearl earrings from our 30th anniversary and brought a bottle of red wine they couldn't afford. The backyard felt staged, plastic tablecloths, forced smiles, music drowning out truth. Blake flipped burgers at the grill, playing provider, while Candace, in white, postured. Trevor nodded awkwardly, unsure of his stance. I didn't wait. I dropped the firewood folder on the picnic table and said, "We need to talk now." Candace rolled her eyes. Blake muttered. Trevor reached for a beer. I laid out the evidence: loan fraud, forged partnership extensions, fund transfers. "This is what Blake did while your father was asleep," I said flatly, calm. "It's not a guess. It's notarized, confirmed. The only reason you're not in jail is because I'm giving you one chance to own it." Blake laughed, dismissive. "This is ridiculous." I cut him off. "It's fact." Candace's voice rose, shaky. "It's a setup. Henry would have told us." I turned to her. "Henry saw it. He didn't trust you to fix it." Her silence was heavy. Ava, by the fence, watched with wide eyes, seeing cracks in her parents' facade. I faced Blake. "You'll sign over the vehicles, cabin furniture, business inventory today. You don't enjoy what you tried to destroy." He clenched his jaw tight. "You're burning the family down over paperwork." I leaned in. "No, you burned it when you stole from us." Candace muttered, "You're a bitter old woman." I didn't turn. "I'm the woman who paid for this yard, and you're not invited back." I walked out, hearing their voices rise, but my steps were firm. At home, I sipped the wine on my porch, watching the sun set, feeling grief and power intertwined. I wasn't happy, but I was free, tasting a freedom sharper than their stolen gains. After the barbecue, I moved with precision, no longer fueled by anger but by necessity. On Monday, I met the real estate attorney, presenting a list of properties Henry and I owned. The lake house Blake flaunted online, the downtown condo Trevor rented under the table, the SUV Candace drove as a gift from Blake's hard work, all leased in Henry's name, now mine. I signed sale orders without hesitation, each signature a clean cut severing their entitlement. Notify them personally or let the paperwork speak, the lawyer asked. They didn't invite me to divide the kingdom, I said. No stage for them now. By Friday, Blake's business account, bloated with illegal equity, was drained. Candace's credit cards were declined at a Westport boutique, her humiliation public. Trevor called, breathless, asking if the building manager meant to terminate his lease. Yes, I replied. The next tenant will pay rent like everyone else. Candace didn't stay quiet. She stormed to my front steps, red-faced, screaming about answers, threatening to accuse me of elder abuse. I stood behind the window, blinds cracked, watching her unravel. I didn't open the door or speak. She left, her designer heels clicking in defeat. The next morning, I had the lake house locks changed. By noon, the SUV was towed from Blake's driveway mid-brunch, neighbors gawking. This wasn't revenge, it was reclamation, restoring what Henry and I built while they waited for handouts. That night, Ava texted, Dad's losing it. They're talking about moving to Aunt Brenda's. Is this permanent? I replied, actions are permanent. So are consequences. She didn't answer, but her typing pauses hinted at conflict, caught between her parents' lies and the truth. I slept deeply, a quiet settling in my bones, peace breaking through. Saturday, I woke to a white envelope slid under my door, my name in shaky handwriting. I thought it expecting Ava, but found an unsigned psychiatric evaluation form, capacity evaluation, circled in red. My blood ran cold. I recognized it from Henry's legal briefs, a setup to challenge my estate control, claiming mental unfitness. Fear didn't grip me. A slow, burning insult did. They'd stooped to cowardice. That afternoon, I dropped the envelope on Alan's desk. He scanned it, eyebrows rising. They went this route. Bold, he said. Trace it. I want to know who sent it. 2 days later, Alan called, voice sharp. It's Candace. She approached a notary she owed favors, trying to backdate the file. We've got emails, an assistant turned them over, unhappy about committing a felony on a Sunday. I said, press charges. He replied, already in motion. That evening, a sheriff's car pulled into Blake's driveway as they unloaded groceries. Candace screamed, cussed, and sobbed, but deputies cuffed her on the sidewalk, charging forgery, fraud, and attempted court abuse. Blake tried intervening, but a deputy stopped him. Ava later told me, voice quiet, she said it was your fault, but no one believed her. Not even Dad. I replied, some people don't break. They rot until there's only noise. Ava's silence on the line felt like understanding. That night, I poured whiskey and opened Henry's photo album, staring at Blake and Trevor's toddler faces. I didn't miss them, but needed to remember I loved them. I acted not from hate, but duty to protect what Henry and I sacrificed for. If that meant Candace faced jail, so be it. She bet I'd fold, too weak or old to fight. She didn't know I'd stop fearing the day they told me to sit quietly. The courthouse hearing for Candace's arraignment was brief. Alan texted she took a deal. No jail, but a permanent record and a fine crippling their finances. Blake didn't contact me, his silence admitting defeat. I shifted focus, filing taxes, closing properties, deciding what this fight meant. I wasn't hoarding assets, but guarding our legacy from rot. At home, I cooked for one, salmon, asparagus, a glass of wine, savoring the quiet. Ava's text came, can I visit soon? I replied, doors open, sweetheart. Her heart kept me grounded amid their chaos. I walked through the house, fingers tracing walls Henry and I painted, the life we built. Candace's screams, Blake's fraud, Trevor's silence, they couldn't erase that. Henry's letter, his foresight, had armed me. I wasn't just the widow. I was the firewall, and they'd learn I wouldn't bend. As I locked the doors, the house settled, its piece of fortress. I sat in Henry's recliner, the frayed blanket soft, and read his journal, feeling his strength in me. The fight wasn't over, but I was ready, standing tall in the home we'd made. Candace's plea deal left Blake silent, his bravado shattered by her charges and their financial ruin. I focused on practicalities, tax filings, property closures, reclaiming what Henry and I built, not for greed, but to honor our sacrifices. My home, once tense with their entitlement, now hummed with peace. I cooked for myself salmon, roasted vegetables, a glass of Pinot, savoring the quiet. Ava's texts grew frequent, her questions soft. Can I visit Sunday? I replied, always, sweetheart. Her heart anchored me as her parents unraveled. A week after Candace's arraignment, Blake texted, can we talk? Just family, no lawyers. His tone, less aggressive, hinted at desperation. I sensed a trap but agreed, not to reconcile, but to face him. He invited me to his house for a reconnection dinner, as if burgers could erase fraud. I wore Henry's pearl earrings and brought nothing but resolve. Walking into their backyard, I saw a staged scene. Plastic tablecloths, forced smiles, music masking tension. Trevor hovered, uneasy. Ava sat quietly, watchful. Candace, barred by her deal, was absent. Blake, thinner, stood at the grill, flipping steaks like he still held power. He greeted me with a strained nod, but I didn't wait for pleasantries. I set a new folder on the table. Updated asset records, fraud evidence, cease and desist notices. Let's talk truth, I said. Blake's jaw tightened. This is about family, not paperwork, he started, but I raised a hand. You stole from your father's grave. That's the family you built. Trevor shifted, avoiding my gaze. Ava's eyes widened, absorbing the weight. Blake scoffed. You're exaggerating. I borrowed against assets I'd inherit. I opened the folder, showing notarized documents. Henry dissolved your partnership. You had no rights. $500,000, Blake, while he fought cancer. His laugh faltered. You can't prove intent. I slid over bank statements, dates circling his first withdrawal post-surgery. I don't need to. The numbers do. Silence gripped the yard, music jarring against it. Blake's chest heaved. You're destroying us over a misunderstanding. I leaned in. No. You destroyed trust when you saw his illness as opportunity. Trevor muttered, Mom, maybe we can fix this. I turned to him. Your silence let it happen. Fix that first. Ava, voice small, said, Dad, is it true? Blake snapped, stay out of it, but her hurt eyes met mine, seeking truth. I stood. Sign over the remaining assets, vehicles, cabin contents, business shares by tomorrow, or I press charges. Blake lunged forward, voice low. You'll ruin Ava's future, too. I didn't flinch. You did that when you gambled her security. I walked out, leaving the folder, their protests fading. Ava followed, catching me at the gate. I believe you, she whispered. I squeezed her hand. You're not them. Remember that. At home, I poured whiskey in Henry's study, his journal open to his note. Blake's withdrawals looked fishy. His foresight fueled me. Alan called the next day. Blake had signed the transfers, his accounts frozen, his business gutted. He's got nothing left, Alan said. I replied. He never had it to begin with. That evening, Ava visited, bringing a sketchbook. We sat on the porch, her pencil scratching softly. I'm sorry for Dad, she said. He's not sorry for himself. I nodded. Some people rot before they break. She showed me a drawing, our lake house, waves lapping. I miss it, she admitted. I promised, you'll have a home. Ava, one they can't touch. Her trust, unlike their greed, was real. I cooked us pasta, the kitchen warm, my sign. This house remembers watching over. Trevor called later, voice cracked. I should have spoken up. I said, you still can. Start there. He hung up, silent again. Candace's fine hit, their credit cards maxed. Neighbors whispered about the towed SUV, the sheriff's visit. Blake's silence grew heavier. No threats, just defeat. I locked my doors, Henry's recliner grounding me. The firewood folder, now thick, held their consequences, but Ava's sketch, taped to the fridge, held my hope. I wasn't just the widow. I was the woman who stood when they told me to sit. They'd pushed, but I'd pushed back harder, and the fight wasn't done. Blake's surrender, signing over the assets, left him a shadow, his accounts frozen, his business gutted. Candace, silenced by her plea deal, stayed away, her fine draining their last resources. Trevor's calls stopped, his guilt unspoken. I shifted focus, not to punish, but to protect what Henry and I built. Mornings began with coffee on the porch, the air crisp, my garden blooming where weeds once grew. I joined a book club, their debates filling my evenings and painted watercolors in Henry's study, each stroke a reclaiming of joy. The house, once heavy with their greed, now breathed freely, its sign, this house remembers a quiet vow. I met with Peter, the estate accountant, to finalize closures. You've cleaned the rock, he said, reviewing the liquidated assets. I nodded, handing him instructions to transfer the small house with the yellow shutters, Henry's favorite, to Ava's name. She hadn't asked, but her honesty deserved a future untangled from her parents' lies. When I told her, she cried, soft and shocked. I don't deserve this, she said. I replied, you do, because you didn't pretend. Her hug lingered, a bridge across their betrayal. That week, I worked with a nonprofit consultant to launch the Henry Whitmore Second Chance Fund, a grant for widowed women over 60 pushed aside after their husbands' deaths. I wanted no fanfare, just impact. The first application, a handwritten letter from a Kentucky woman whose children emptied her account post-funeral, arrived before the website launched. I approved it in hours, her story echoing mine. Sorting paperwork one night, I found Henry's note on a dry cleaning receipt. Make sure Ellanor knows she did it all. I folded it into his desk drawer, beside the will, keys, and peace. Ava visited often, her sketchbook always tucked under her arm. We'd sit in the kitchen, her pencil scratching while I baked blueberry pies, Henry's favorite. You're different now, she said once, sketching my hands. Stronger. I smiled. I was always strong. I just forgot. She showed me a drawing of our old lake house, waves gentle. I'll miss it, she admitted. I promised. You'll build new memories in your own home. Her trust, unlike Blake's fraud, was solid. Blake sent a letter, not a call, his handwriting shaky. I'm sorry, not for losing, but for what I did to Dad. I read it twice, feeling no warmth, only acknowledgement. He'd moved to a friend's spare room, working a desk job, no longer the king of his own story. I didn't reply, but kept the letter, not for forgiveness, but as proof of consequence. Trevor texted once, vague, "Can we talk someday?" I answered, "When you're ready to listen." His silence persisted, but I didn't chase it. Candace's absence was permanent, her yoga friends gossiping about her fall. Neighbors whispered about Blake's repossessed SUV, the sheriff's visit. I locked my doors nightly, Henry's recliner grounding me. The firewood folder, now archived, held their downfall, but Ava's sketches, taped to the fridge, held my future. At book club, I share my story, my voice steady. You make resilience real, a member said. I hadn't aimed to inspire, but her words settled like truth. One evening, I cooked for Ava and me. Pasta, garlic bread, laughter filling the kitchen. She talked about college plans, her eyes bright. I want to be like you, she said. I shook my head. Be better. You've got time. After she left, I sat in Henry's study, his journal open. His note about Blake's withdrawals, his foresight, had saved me. I added my own, "I'm home, Henry." We did it. The house, like my heart, was no longer a battleground, but a sanctuary built on choices, not obligations. Doris, my friend from book club, stopped by with wine. You've rewritten the story, she said, toasting. I clinked her glass. Not rewritten, reclaimed. Candace's insult, calling me just the widow, had sparked my awakening. Her greed, my catalyst. I documented every truth. Deeds, fraud, Henry's letter, ensuring no one could erase me again. As I locked the doors, the house settled, its peace a fortress. I wasn't surviving. I was living on my terms, with Ava's love as my legacy. Months after Blake's letter, I'd settled into a life of deliberate peace. Mornings began with coffee on the porch, my garden thriving, marigolds bright beside Ava's repainted lawn gnome. I led my book club, their debates a spark, and painted watercolors in Henry's study, each canvas a testament to my joy. Doris's wine nights brought laughter, her pride in my strength a mirror. The house, once a battlefield, was now a sanctuary, its sign. This house remembers a vow of my resilience. Blake texted one crisp fall day, inviting me to a family reset dinner at his house. His words, cautious, spoke of reconnection as if a meal could mend fraud and silence. I didn't trust his intent, but went not to forgive, but to stand tall, no longer begging for a place. I wore Henry's pearl earrings and brought a bottle of red wine. Its price a quiet jab they'd notice. The backyard felt hollow, plastic tablecloths, forced smiles, music too loud for truth. Candace, bound by her plea deal, was absent. Trevor hovered, uneasy, while Ava sat beside me, calm, her presence steel in a room of smoke. Blake, thinner, stood at the table's head, acting as if he still owned the space. He began with a rehearsed speech about families weathering storms, but I wasn't here for scripts. I set my glass down, meeting every gaze. This isn't a storm, I said. It's consequence. You wrote it. Silence fell, heavy, no one reaching for water or fidgeting. Blake opened his mouth, perhaps to deflect, but I raised a hand. You called me just the widow, told me to sit quietly. I wasn't quite building this family, keeping it alive, or taking it back. I paused, letting the words land. This table, this room, I own them legally, emotionally, structurally. You're guests here. Remember that. Ava's hand brushed mine under the table, a quiet alliance. Trevor looked away, guilt etched in his frown. Blake's voice cracked. We're trying to move forward. I leaned in. Forward starts with owning what you broke. You stole from your father's deathbed. That's your legacy until you face it. No one spoke. I stood, turning to leave, but paused. You don't have to like me. Just know I'm done shrinking so you can feel big. I walked out, the air sharp and clean, like Henry's favorite yard work days. In my car, I felt settled, not victorious, but free. Ava texted later, I'm proud of you. I replied, I'm proud of us. At home, I poured wine, sat in Henry's recliner, and opened his journal. His note, Blake's withdrawals look fishy, reminded me of his trust in me. I added, I stood, Henry. For us. The firewood folder, archived, held their downfall, but Ava's sketches on the fridge held my hope. The next week, I hosted Ava for dinner, pasta, garlic bread, her laughter warming the kitchen. She shared college plans, eyes bright. I want to study art like your watercolors, she said. I smiled. Paint your truth. That's enough. She gave me a new sketch. Our porch, marigolds vivid. For your wall, she said. I hung it beside the sign. This house remembers its colors my legacy. Blake didn't contact me again, his silence a concession. Trevor sent a vague text, I'm sorry. I didn't reply, waiting for action, not words. Candace's fine crippled them. Their old life, SUVs, lake house brags was gone. Neighbors gossiped, but I locked my doors unbothered. The Henry Whitmore Second Chance Fund grew, applications pouring in from women like me, pushed aside. I approve grants weekly, their stories fueling my purpose. Doris toasted at our next wine night. You've turned pain into power. I clinked her glass. Not power, purpose. Candace's insult, just the widow, had ignited my fight, her greed my awakening. I walked the house nightly, fingers tracing walls Henry and I painted. His letter, his foresight, had armed me. I wasn't just surviving. I was living, choosing who sat at my table. Ava's love, untainted by her parents' rot, was my true inheritance. I kept her sketches, baked her cookies, left my door open for her visits. The house, like my heart, was mine not because I won, but because I chose to stay, to fight, to rebuild. As I lit a candle, its glow soft in Henry's study, I felt peace, not as an end, but a beginning. A year after Candace's cutting words, calling me just the widow, to silence me at that estate dinner, I stood in my kitchen, kneading dough for blueberry pie, Henry's favorite, its scent wrapping the house in warmth. My mornings began with coffee on the porch, marigolds vibrant beside Ava's repainted lawn gnome, a symbol of our shared defiance. I led my book club, their debates igniting my mind, and painted watercolors in Henry's study, each canvas a piece of my joy. Doris's wine nights filled my evenings with laughter, her pride in my journey a steady mirror. The house, once a battleground of greed, was now a sanctuary, its sign, this house remembers my vow of resilience. One spring afternoon, Ava arrived with a canvas tote, her sketchbook poking out for a quiet dinner. I opened the door in my yellow sweater, chosen for its brightness, and welcomed her with a hug. Cookies, she asked, grinning. I pointed to the kitchen, cinnamon lingering. We set a simple table, 2 plates, pasta, garlic bread, no need for extravagance. Ava shared her college acceptance letter, her voice bright with plans for art school. I want to paint like you, she said. I smiled. Paint your truth. That's more than enough. After dinner, we sat on the porch, her pencil sketching the garden. She gave me a new drawing, our house, porch glowing, marigolds alive. For your legacy, she said. I hung it beside the kitchen sign, its colors my anchor. Ava's trust, untainted by her parents' rot, was my true inheritance. Blake had faded into a desk job, his letter of apology unanswered, his silence a concession. Trevor texted rarely, his guilt heavy but unacted upon. Candace, bound by her plea deal, stayed in Oregon, her yoga friends gossiping about her fall. I didn't dwell on them. My life was mine, built on choices, not their chaos. The Henry Whitmore Second Chance Fund thrived, granting aid to widowed women pushed aside, their stories echoing mine. A woman from Kentucky, whose children drained her account post-funeral, wrote to thank me, her words fuel for my purpose. I approve grants weekly, no fanfare, just impact. At book club, I share my journey, my voice steady. You make resilience real, a member said. I hadn't sought to inspire, but their nods settled like truth. Doris toasted at our next wine night. You've turned betrayal into beauty. I clinked her glass. Not beauty, clarity. I walked the house nightly, fingers tracing walls Henry and I painted, our sacrifices etched in every corner. His letter, hidden in the no-go drawer, had armed me, his foresight my shield. I found another note in his journal. Ellanor did it all. I added mine. We did it, Henry. I'm home. The firewood folder, archived, held their consequences, Blake's fraud, Candace's forgery, Trevor's silence, but Ava's sketches, taped to the fridge, held my future. I baked her cookies, kept her photos near. My door open for her visits. One evening, I hosted Ava and Doris for dinner, roasted chicken, lemony green beans, laughter filling the kitchen. Ava showed us her latest sketch, our porch under stars, a quiet fortress. It's you, she said. I nodded, heart full. After they left, I sat in Henry's recliner, tea steaming, tree lights blinking. Candace's insult had sparked my awakening, her greed my catalyst. I'd documented every truth, deeds, bank statements, Henry's letter, ensuring no one could erase me again. Blake's theft, Trevor's silence, had crumbled, Ava's love endured. My legacy wasn't the assets I reclaimed or the fund I built, but the truth I lived. I was no longer the widow who begged for a seat. I was Ellanor, who faced betrayal, stood tall, and built a life of deliberate joy. The house, like my heart, was mine, not because I won, but because I chose to stay, to fight, to thrive. As I locked the doors, the pie scent lingered, a promise kept. I lit a candle, read in Henry's study, and whispered, I'm home. The horizon, like my watercolors, was vibrant, proof it's never too late to claim your place.